The snow hadn't let up in hours. Icy gusts howled down the empty roadside like ghosts of travelers long forgotten. Every breath stung as it hit the air, and Nathan's fingers, wrapped in threadbare gloves, trembled as he tried one last time to restart his stalled-out car. The dashboard lights flickered once, then died. He leaned back in the driver's seat, eyes burning with cold and exhaustion. It was Christmas Eve, and he was supposed to be home in Chicago with his mother, her signature cinnamon rolls in the oven, the faint hum of Nat King Cole drifting through the apartment. Instead, he was stuck on a desolate highway in rural Minnesota, his rental car dead, phone battery flashing red, and not a soul in sight for miles. 1,000 miles from home, and closer to giving up than he wanted to admit. Nathan had tried waving down a few passing vehicles earlier, but no one stopped. Maybe they didn't see him. Maybe they didn't care. Either way, hope was bleeding out of him like warmth through his coat. He looked at the photo clipped to his sun visor, a recent one of him and his mom at her last chemo appointment, both smiling too wide, both pretending not to notice the hospital bracelet on her wrist. "I'm coming, Ma," he whispered, voice cracking. "I just need a little help." Then, in the distance, a pair of headlights pierced the white curtain of snow. A truck, older but steady, slowed as it approached. It didn't pass. It stopped. The door creaked open, and a woman stepped out, mid-60s maybe, bundled in a patchwork coat, salt and pepper hair tucked under a wool cap. She squinted at him through the swirling snow. "You okay, sweetheart?" she asked, voice warm despite the cold. "You look about ready to pass out." Nathan opened the door and stumbled out. "Car died. Phone too. Just trying to get home for Christmas." She nodded, almost like she'd expected that. "Come on. You'll freeze out here. My cabin's a few miles up the road. You can warm up, call someone, eat something hot." He hesitated, shivering. She smiled gently. "I'm Ruth," she said. "And nobody should be alone in this weather." The warmth inside Ruth's cabin hit Nathan like a tide. Wood smoke, cinnamon, something roasting in the oven. He hadn't realized how numb he'd gotten until he stepped inside and the blood started returning to his fingertips, painfully slow. He tried not to wince. Ruth handed him a thick quilt and a steaming mug. "Ginger tea. With a splash of honey and a pinch of cayenne. My grandma's recipe." "Thank you," Nathan murmured, wrapping his fingers around the mug like it was life itself. The cabin was small but homey. A fire crackled in the stone hearth, casting amber shadows over worn furniture and shelves full of books. A Christmas tree stood in the corner, strung with handmade ornaments and white lights that blinked like stars. "I'll throw your gloves and coat in the dryer," she said, already collecting them. "You look like you've been through the ringer." "I feel like it," Nathan said with a tired laugh. "I rented a car in Omaha to drive to Chicago. Cheapest flight I could find dropped me there, but I hit the storm a couple hours back and didn't see a gas station for miles." "You're lucky you didn't slide off the road," she said, returning with a warm towel. "These old country highways, beautiful, but lonely." Nathan nodded, sipping the tea. "I almost turned around a few times." "Why didn't you?" He looked into the fire. "My mom. She's been fighting cancer. First it was breast, then it spread. She's trying to be strong, but I know she's scared. She didn't say it, but this might be her last Christmas." Ruth's expression softened, and she sat beside him in an old rocking chair. "That's a hard weight to carry," she said gently. "I know it well." He looked at her. "You lost someone." She nodded. "My son, Jacob. 3 years ago. Car accident. He was 32. Bright and good. Just married. He was on his way to surprise me for the holidays when it happened." Black ice. Nathan's throat tightened. "I'm so sorry." "Thank you." She took a slow breath, like the memory still scraped her ribs. "After that, I nearly gave up. Sold the house in Duluth, moved here. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere I wouldn't hear the city he loved." They sat in silence for a moment, only the fire speaking in small crackles. "I've gotten used to the quiet," she said finally. "But every year around this time, I wonder what I'm still doing here." Nathan turned toward her. "You saved me tonight." Ruth gave a wry smile. Maybe you saved me too. Dash dash dash. That night, after a hot stew dinner and a long shower, Nathan lay on the small fold-out bed Ruth made up for him. He stared at the ceiling beams, listening to the wind taper off. He thought about the people who had passed him by earlier, so many cars, so many eyes that glanced and looked away. In this world of fast travel and faster distractions, people had learned to ignore suffering like background noise. And yet this woman, this stranger with her own scarred heart, had pulled over. Had opened her door, her home, her story. He looked again at the photo of his mom he kept tucked in his wallet. Her smile, faintly crooked, always stubborn, looked back at him. She didn't know he was safe. She didn't know he'd be late. But for the first time that day, Nathan felt like he wasn't failing her. In the quiet of the cabin, he whispered a silent promise. I'll get to you, Ma. No matter what. And for the first time in days, he closed his eyes and slept without fear. Nathan woke to the smell of coffee and something sweet in the air, apples, maybe cinnamon. For a second, he thought he was home. That Mom was in the kitchen, humming old Motown and baking before sunrise like she used to on holidays. But the soft creak of a rocking chair and the hiss of wind through tall pines reminded him, he wasn't home. He was still in Ruth's cabin. He pulled on the fresh socks Ruth had set by the bed and stepped into the warm, light-drenched kitchen. She was stirring something on the stove, humming a low, mournful tune. Morning, he said, voice rough. She turned with a smile. You slept like a stone. First real sleep in days. Then it's working, she said, handing him a plate. Apple pancakes. Fresh. Golden. Sit. Eat. He blinked. You didn't have to. I wanted to, she interrupted. And you needed it. There was something in her tone, firm, generous, motherly, that stopped him from protesting. He sat. He ate. And for a while, they just talked. About everything and nothing. Ruth told him stories of Jacob's childhood, how he once tried to rescue a frog by building it a Lego castle, how he played trumpet like his lungs were filled with jazz instead of air. Nathan shared bits of his life too, his mom's stubborn independence, his job as a freelance graphic designer, how he'd lost his dad to a heart attack at 16 and had never really known how to grieve. At one point, Ruth placed her hand on his. Grief doesn't have a schedule. It's messy. Unfinished. He nodded slowly. I'm scared I'll lose her and not know who I am anymore. You'll still be you, she said. Just, reshaped. After breakfast, Nathan stood by the front window, watching the snow fall again, slower now, softer. Ruth joined him. I called my neighbor this morning, she said. Dean's got a tow truck. He's heading into town this afternoon and said he'll haul your rental to the service station. Nathan exhaled. That's incredible. Thank you. I also called the bus depot in Ely, she added. Last-minute ticket to Chicago leaves at 4:30. One seat left. He turned to her, stunned. She smiled gently. It'll get you there by tomorrow morning. He stared at her, speechless. You did all that. For me. You needed help, she said, matter of fact. And I had the means. Simple as that. But I'm a stranger. She held his gaze. You're someone's son. Someone's hope. That makes you worth helping. Nathan's chest tightened. He thought of all the times people had looked away when he needed something. Back in college, when he'd been broken alone in a new city, even recently, when bills piled up and friends got too busy to check in. And now here was Ruth. No obligation, no expectation, offering everything without blinking. I don't know how to repay you, he said quietly. You don't have to, she replied. But if you ever find someone cold and lost, pull over. Later that afternoon, Nathan packed his bag while Ruth wrapped a bundle in wax paper. Road food, she said, handing it to him. And these are for your mom. She placed 2 handmade candles in his hands, lavender and cedarwood. For comfort and strength. Nathan looked down at the candles, then up at her. She doesn't know you, he said softly. Ruth nodded. But I know you. And that's enough. When the tow truck pulled up, Nathan hugged her tightly. You saved me. She held him just as tight. You reminded me why I'm still here. The bus ride was long, 12 hours of frozen highways, plastic seats, and half-slept dreams, but Nathan didn't mind. Wrapped in Ruth's quilt and sipping the last of her ginger tea from a thermos, he felt cocooned. Anchored. Every so often, he pulled out the candles she'd given him, cradling them in his palms like something sacred. For comfort and strength, she'd said. And now, even miles away from her cabin, her kindness burned steady within him. When the bus pulled into the Chicago terminal just past dawn, Christmas lights still twinkled from traffic poles and storefronts. The city was waking slowly, as if reluctant to leave its holiday dreams. Nathan rushed into the cold and hailed a cab. Dash dash dash. His mom's apartment was on the third floor, same as always. The smell of cinnamon rolls hit him before he even knocked. He smiled. She opened the door in her bathrobe, hair thinner than last year, eyes tired, but they lit up like fireworks the moment they saw him. Nathan, she whispered, hand flying to her mouth. You made it. He pulled her into a hug, holding her longer than usual. I promised, he said. They sat by the window all morning, sipping cocoa and watching the city snow fall like confetti. He told her everything, about the storm, the breakdown, Ruth. She saved you, his mom said softly, eyes misting. He nodded. Yeah, she really did. He handed her the candles. She held them close to her chest. You meet people like that once in a lifetime. Nathan paused, then said, I think you raised me to become one. She turned to him, surprised. And so he told her something he hadn't shared before, about the time he passed a stranded family on the freeway years ago and helped them change a tire, about the coffee he bought for a weeping stranger in the park last winter, about the old man he carried groceries for every Tuesday. I didn't think it mattered, he said, until I needed it myself. She smiled, the kind that broke and healed in one motion. Kindness never disappears. It waits. And returns when you need it most. Days passed. Then weeks. Nathan stayed through the new year, working remotely and cooking meals while his mom rested. Her treatments were brutal, but she fought. And slowly, she began to regain strength, not just from medicine, but from presence. From the quiet reassurance that she wasn't alone. Every few days, Nathan would think of Ruth. He tried calling the number she'd written on a notepad and tucked into his bag, but it rang endlessly. No voicemail. No answer. He mailed a thank you letter, but it came back marked, return to sender. It was as if she'd vanished. Like an angel who showed up in the storm, then disappeared with the snow. By spring, Nathan was back in Omaha for work. The world had turned green again. Birds returned. People walked slower, laughed louder. He found himself doing the same. One morning, he saw a young woman with a baby stroller on the side of the road. Flat tire. Cars zoomed by. Nathan pulled over without thinking. Need a hand. The woman looked up, startled. I don't have a spare. I've got one that might fit, he said. And if not, I know someone who can tow you for free. As he knelt by the wheel, he thought of Ruth's calloused hands. Her patience. Her fire. Later, he gave the woman his card. If you ever get stuck again, don't hesitate. She blinked. Why are you doing this? He smiled, almost wistful. Because someone did it for me. That summer, Nathan returned to Minnesota. He rented a car and drove along the same snowy highway, but now the landscape was lush and sun-drenched. He searched for the turnoff Ruth had taken that night, but no cabin stood there. Just trees. And silence. For a moment, he wondered if he'd imagined her. A dream conjured in the cold. But as he turned to leave, something caught his eye, half buried in the underbrush, a handmade sign. Weathered. Faded. Jacob's light. In memory. In kindness. Beneath it, a single lavender candle. He knelt beside it, overcome. Ruth hadn't vanished. She'd simply returned to the quiet. The grief. The memory of her son. But her kindness still moved through the world. It moved through him. He pulled the spare candle from his backpack, the second one she'd given. The one he'd kept. And placed it beside the sign. Then whispered, thank you. I'll keep the light going. The candle flickered softly beneath the weathered sign, its flame dancing with the breeze. Nathan knelt in the tall grass a moment longer, head bowed, as if in silent prayer. Jacob's light. In memory. In kindness. He finally understood what it meant. It wasn't just a tribute to a lost son. It was a vow Ruth had made, to carry forward the love that tragedy couldn't destroy. To offer light, however small, to someone stranded in the dark. And now, he was part of that light too. Back in Omaha, Nathan's life didn't become perfect. Bills still came. Work still stressed him. His mother had good days and hard ones. But something had changed in him. A quiet, enduring certainty that kindness wasn't just a nice idea. It was survival. It was legacy. And it was his to give now. He started small. Volunteered once a week at a local shelter. Donated design work to nonprofits. Left warm socks and granola bars in his car, just in case he saw someone who might need them. But it wasn't just about doing things, it was about seeing people. Really seeing them. Like the old man on his block who always sat alone on the porch. Nathan started stopping by, just to say hello. Eventually, the man invited him in for coffee, and they spent hours swapping stories. One day, the man cried and said no one had sat with him like that in years. Or the exhausted barista at the coffee shop, who thanked him with a stunned smile when he left a generous tip and said, "I see how hard you're working. You matter." It was Ruth's voice, in the back of his mind. You're someone's son. Someone's hope. He carried her memory like a compass. One afternoon, nearly a year after the storm, Nathan found himself in a bookstore, browsing for a gift for his mom. A thin book caught his eye on a clearance shelf, The Quiet Kindness, Stories of Unexpected Grace. He flipped through it absently, but stopped on a page with a black and white photo. His breath caught. It was Ruth. A little younger, maybe. Standing beside a man and a young boy, Jacob, it had to be. The caption read, "Greater than Ruth Halvorsen, former grief counselor and community organizer, founded Jacob's Light, after the sudden loss of her son." The project provided emergency candles, blankets, and care packages to rural drivers in northern Minnesota. "Kindness is how I keep breathing," she once said. Nathan swallowed hard, tears stinging his eyes. She had existed. Her story had rippled farther than he ever knew. He bought the book and mailed it to his mom, inscribed with a note. "Greater than this woman saved me in a snowstorm. Her light saved both of us. I think she might have saved hundreds more. Maybe thousands." His mom called a few days later, voice thick with emotion. "She reminds me of your father. He used to help strangers on the road too." "Maybe that's where I get it," Nathan said softly. "No," she replied. "You've always had it. You just finally saw it." The following winter, the Midwest faced another brutal storm. News anchors warned of whiteouts, sub-zero temperatures, stranded motorists. The city buzzed with urgency, fear. Nathan packed a small kit and drove slowly along Highway 7, the same road where Ruth had found him. He wasn't sure what he was looking for. Maybe no one. Maybe just to be ready. Hours passed. Nothing but snow and sky. Then, a car in a ditch. Hazard lights blinking. A young man inside, pounding his fists on the steering wheel, phone held up for signal that wasn't there. Nathan pulled over. The man looked up, startled. "You okay?" Nathan called, stepping into the snow. "No signal. My battery's dying. I don't know what to do." Nathan opened his trunk, handed over a blanket and a hot thermos. "Hop in my car. We'll get you warmed up and call a tow from the next town over." The man blinked, tears forming. "Why are you doing this?" Nathan paused, then smiled. "Because someone did it for me." As they drove slowly toward town, the stranger holding his hands over the heater vents, Nathan looked out at the snow-covered fields, silent, still, endless. And somewhere in that quiet, he imagined Ruth standing beneath the trees again, wind in her silver hair, eyes shining like lanterns in the dark. He whispered, "I kept it going." And this time, he swore he could hear her answer. "I knew you would."